what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to some more oddities and interesting facts of US geography part 5. As a geography fiend that I am, I'm here for all these videos. When there's new ones coming up, I'm here for it. And this was made like 4 or 5 days ago? Two days ago. Okay, well, I was a bit wrong with that. But yeah, some geography videos that I enjoy before. Like, yeah, he's always got the best videos for this sort of stuff, I feel like. But yeah, we're going to do a reaction to this and see some of these facts. Hopefully there's some niche ones. He tends to have like niche ones that you won't really find in other videos, but we're going to see. Hopefully going to enjoy, and let's jump into this reaction.
Howdy, it's Kyle with part 5 of Oddities of US Geography, where I take a look at some interesting quirks and features of the geography of our country. And I started this series several years ago, but haven't done one of these in a couple of years, so I thought I would update it. I'll leave a link to where you can watch the previous 4 in the series. I'll leave a little box up there for one of them as well if you want to see some of the things I was talking about in the previous 4 videos. But yeah, this is part 5 of Oddities of US Geography. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with one about the Great Lakes. We all know that there are 5 Great Lakes.
I know what he's going to say here. They're all actually one big lake.
Lakes, of course, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. But from a purely geologic and hydrological standpoint, there really are only 4 Great Lakes.
So I am wrong.
Superior, Erie, and Ontario are indeed separate lakes, but Lakes Michigan and Huron are actually the same lake. So if you zoom in a little more, you can see how these 2 lakes are actually one, separated just by a strait. And this spot is called the Straits of Mackinac, and the bridge that goes over the strait is the Mackinac Bridge. Between the other lakes, including between Superior and Huron,
But look how deep some of them are. Lake Erie is not very deep. I mean, it's still deep overall, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not anywhere near as deep as some of them. Lake Superior is very deep. Bloody hell.
Have a river. And between Lakes Erie and Ontario, you of course have a river as well that spills over as Niagara Falls. And if you've ever wondered why people from the UP call people from the lower peninsula of Michigan trolls, it's because they live below the bridge, the Mackinac Bridge. But as you go over the bridge, you are reminded that Lakes Huron and Michigan are really just one giant lake, meaning that there really are only 4 Great Lakes. The next one I want to talk about is the Adirondack mountain range in relation to the Appalachian.
I've never heard of the Adirondack mountain range. Isn't that a chair? Oh, I'm confused.
Appalachian Mountains. So if you look at a map of the Appalachian mountain range, it extends to the southwest down to Alabama and going up to the northeast through Quebec and out even into Newfoundland. And in the northern half of the Appalachians, there are sub-ranges with names such as the Alleghenies, the Poconos, Catskills, Berkshires, the Green Mountains in Vermont, the White Mountains in New Hampshire, the Notre Dame Mountains, and the Chic-Choc Mountains in Quebec. But one that I'm leaving out specifically are the Adirondacks in upstate New York. The Appalachian mountain range is very old. It's about 1 billion years old and is so old it's been eroding over the past 200 million years. However, the Adirondacks are a much younger mountain range than the Appalachians. They're only about 10 million years old. Like most other mountain ranges, the Appalachians were created by tectonic movements. However, the Adirondacks were uplifted through a volcanic hotspot, which means, yes, there is volcanic and seismic activity underneath the Adirondacks. And every now and then, there is a decent-sized earthquake that's felt for a wide range around. So you can see from these really nice maps how the Adirondacks are...
Is there potential for it, like, to an earthquake or something to, like, open it up and then leave the volcanic sort of stuff that's happening underneath? Could that then spill out, or is that not really a possibility? And I guess maybe not in the current sort of climate, but I guess it could change.
Completely separate than the Appalachians in terms of its formation. And the Adirondacks, at a relatively young 10 million years old, are still being uplifted, and again the Appalachians are being eroded. The highest point in the Adirondacks is also the highest point in New York State. It's Mount Marcy at 5,344 feet. And most of the Adirondacks is contiguous with Adirondack Park, which is the largest state park in the contiguous U.S. And the well-known Appalachian Trail that goes from Maine down to Georgia does not go through the Adirondacks, it goes through the Catskills in southern New York. So essentially every other mountain range in the eastern U.S. that is next to the Appalachians is part of the Appalachian system, but not the Adirondacks. This next one I want to mention was brought to my attention by long-term viewer Joe, the Boss King himself.
Shout out Joe.
And this is in reference to Kossuth County in north central Iowa. So you look at this map of Iowa with the counties delineated, and there's a very nice orderly fashion to how these counties are drawn. But there's something a little bit different about Kossuth County. It's almost twice the size as the other ones around it. At one point, Kossuth County absorbed the adjacent county and made it almost twice as big. So that in and of itself is pretty interesting, but not that strange. But what I do find much more interesting is that Iowa has 99 counties. That means without this little merger here, there would be exactly 100 counties in Iowa. I think there's some kind of conspiracy by Iowa to keep the state from having a triple-digit number of counties. However, North Carolina does have exactly 100 counties. Okay, for this next fact, I'm going over to the big island of Hawaii and Mauna Kea. It's the highest point in the state of Hawaii. It stands at 13,800 feet, and it's a giant shield volcano. And shield volcanoes are huge in terms of its area, but they're usually gently sloping and often don't look super tall.
Does that mean they're more dangerous? I feel like maybe that means... Actually, nah. Could the lava then like sort of just come down? I guess it means the lava would come down slower if it's sloped. I don't really know, to be honest. If there's an eruption here, would that be more damaging or not?
However, again, at almost 14,000 feet, it's quite tall. But what makes this so interesting is that more than half of the mountain is actually underwater. So if you count the total elevation of the mountain from the base, which is underwater, to the peak above the surface, it's 30,600 feet. And to put that in perspective, Mount Everest, the highest peak on Earth, stands at 29,031 feet, which means that Mauna Kea is actually a taller mountain than Mount Everest. And that makes it the tallest mountain in the entire world. So even though the top of Mount Everest is higher than any other point on Earth, its base is several thousand feet above the surface to start with. So move over and...
So is Mount Everest a bit of a fraud then? Is that what we're saying? I guess it's already in a mountain range, right? But still, that is pretty mad.
Paul, because we got the tallest mountain on Earth. Okay, I'm going to keep it in Hawaii for this next one, and that's talking about a type of lava. There are two major types.
I thought all lava was the same, to be honest. But
types of lava that erupt from a shield volcano: Pahoehoe and A'a.
This is my first time learning about different types of lava. Smooth, so it's smooth and then rough.
And these are Hawaiian words, but they've been absorbed into the English language because there isn't an equivalent word in English. And of the two types of lava, A'a, which is spelled A', is the rougher, more sharp-like lava. It's almost...
Is that picture real? That guy's literally just standing there next to this lava coming towards him. Fair enough,
like
man.
Rubble. But why that is all very important is that you could be playing a game that's a spelling type game like Scrabble or an online game, and AA is a word. So dust off that old box of Scrabble and show them who's boss with 2 points for A'a. Next, I'm going back to the mainland, to Sacramento, California, to talk about its freeways. So as we all know, you have interstates all throughout the country that have these blue signs that show the number of it, and it shows that it's a freeway without any kind of interruptions with stoplights or other cross streets.
Yeah.
But throughout much of the country, you also have business routes, which are the same shape sign, but they're in green, and it denotes a side street that kind of parallels the freeway where you can access the businesses in the city.
I never knew there was such thing as business roads.
But why Sacramento is strange is that the business route for Interstate 80 through Sacramento is a freeway. The entire point of a business route is to have a surface street where you can access the businesses. But apparently Sacramento missed the memo, so this is the only place in the entire country where the green sign interstate, the business route, is a freeway.
Right.
Everywhere else in the U.S., it would be called interstate.
Why would they not just change it? Too much money to change the like the stuff there. Like, I don't really know why they wouldn't just change it.
280 or 480 or whatever, but for Sacramento, no, it's the business route.
Fair enough.
Next, I'm going up one state to Oregon and Crater Lake.
I do love a bit of Crater Lake.
I've mentioned this in a video about natural features in the U.S., but I think it's so cool it's worth mentioning again.
Is he going to say it's the deepest lake in the U.S.?
As the name of the lake implies, it's essentially a filled-in crater. It's really a caldera, which is very similar, but it filled in after a mountain collapse after a volcanic eruption. And that's pretty common in volcanic areas, and Crater Lake is a rather deep lake. It's 1,949 feet deep. But that isn't just deep, it's the deepest lake in the entire U.S.
The U.S., yeah, see, crazy.
It's the 11th deepest lake in the entire world, and the 5th deepest lake in the entire world for mean depth. Perhaps even more fascinating is that the lake really isn't that big in surface area. It's only 21 square miles. It's not even one of the top 100 lakes in the U.S. in terms of area. So to put that in perspective, that gray pin in the middle of Lake Superior is about the size of Crater Lake. And Crater Lake is about 600 feet deeper than Lake Superior. So with the lake having a relatively small surface area and incredible depth, it's no surprise that this is the lake that has the highest depth to area ratio on Earth.
How deep is Lake Como? Lake Como. Let's see. Lake Como depth. Because this is deep as hell, isn't it? 1,300 deep. Oh, so it's not even as much as that. Wait, what's it called again? Crater Lake, that's the one. Crater Lake depth. Oh no, it is more. Oh, lake, 400 meters. Oh no, it's not. Damn. Because when I hear of Lake Como, I know how deep it is, but Crater Lake is very deep. Lake Como is obviously just a lot larger overall. The more you know.
And also, because of the small surface area, you probably don't have to go down very far in depth before it's complete pitch black. Imagine the giant undiscovered sea creatures that might be living at the depths of Crater Lake.
God damn.
Okay, for this next one, I'm going to the interior west and the Great Basin. The Great Basin is a large geologic area that covers most of Nevada, a good chunk of Utah, and portions of Oregon and California. And what it is the largest endorheic basin in North America. An endorheic means that water flows in, but it can only leave by either seepage or evaporation or flowing off into wetlands. So you think about most of the time there's precipitation that might get funneled into a creek bed and it goes into a river and eventually goes out to the ocean. But in an endorheic basin like the Great Basin, that doesn't happen. Water that comes in through precipitation does not flow out to the ocean. So again, it can only seep into the groundwater, it can evaporate into the atmosphere, or it can kind of fade off into wetlands. Usually these endorheic basins occur in desert regions, and the Great Basin is certainly a desert region. But even though most of Nevada is part of the Great Basin, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada is not. So the areas along the Colorado River and nearby, like Vegas, are not in the basin, and you do have some, normal type water flow in that part of the state. Also part of the Great Basin is the Great Salt Lake in Utah. And like many other lakes and endorheic basins, it has a very high salt count. Yep. And the Great Salt Lake is an example of a lake that could technically completely dry up with extreme drought. All right, look at this beautiful physical geography map. This shows the soils of...
That is very cool. This must cost an absolute fortune to get. I mean, I assume it would, because this would take absolutely ages to make in the first place.
The U.S., but even with the soils map, you can really see the Great Basin highlighted right here.
Is it textured? I think it is textured, right? God damn.
A completely different physiographic
I think it is, I don't know.
Visible on a beautiful map like this. And this map is made by Mirrorway, and there's always a link in the description so you can get a nice coupon code for a discount on a beautiful wall map like this, all different sizes, physical geography of states, countries, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, again, this one shows the Great Basin very clearly right here. Beautiful map.
It's massive.
Okay, I'm going to go back to California near my hometown and talk about the interesting relationship between the cities of Fresno and Clovis. The city of Fresno has about 545,000 people, and Clovis has about 120,000. And as is common throughout the U.S., these are two cities that go right up against each other. You basically just cross one type of normal street. You go from one city to the next, kind of like a big city to a suburb. But one thing interesting about these two cities is that they've been joined at the hip for well over 100 years. Fresno was founded in 1885 and Clovis in 1894, so they both started at right about the same time. So they've always been directly adjacent to each other with no space in between them at all. And that is relatively common, but what is very uncommon is that there are no other suburbs, no other cities attached to either Fresno or Clovis. So for about 130 years, these two cities have been completely conjoined, but with nothing else around it. You think about every other city that has a suburb, there's probably at least one other, if not 10 other suburbs. You will find plenty of places in the U.S. where there are two small towns that are kind of joined together like that with nothing else around it, but Fresno and Clovis...
What the hell is this place? I mean, this has just took my mind. What's happening in this town? Why is it just sort of split like this? What the fuck?
In the U.S. where there are two small towns that are kind of joined together like that with nothing else around it, but Fresno and Clovis, again, each have well over 100,000, and Fresno over 500,000. So throughout the development and growth of both of these two cities, it's been basically parallel, and they're almost like one city with two separate jurisdictions and governments. And for this last one, I'm going to leave the U.S. and go on up to the Great White North of Canada. For this, I'm going to Akamiski Island in James Bay, which is the south end of Hudson Bay. So you look at this map of the provinces and territories of Canada, and the one highlighted in red is Nunavut. This is a mostly Arctic territory, a lot of islands, including the huge Baffin Island. But for whatever reason,
Yeah, why has this now been part, like, why is this part of this region? That's so strange. What the fuck? It's probably just because it's to do with them being islands, right? But that's such a strange one because it's so close to this one here.
Akamiski Island at the south end of James Bay, at the south end of Hudson Bay, is part of Nunavut.
Even these ones
Very
as well.
far from the main part of the territory, but it's just across a small part of water from Ontario. There are only 37,000 people in the entire territory of Nunavut, but there are no population at all on Akamiski Island except for a handful of researchers. Most of the island is a large migratory bird sanctuary. It's an important stopover for Canada geese. And there are a few other smaller islands in James Bay that are also part of Nunavut, but Akamiski Island is the biggest one by far. I'm not exactly sure why this island is part of Nunavut and not Ontario, but I think when Nunavut was created and the territory boundaries were being drawn, all of the islands in Hudson Bay were given to the territory of Nunavut, even though it's much, much closer to Ontario. So that was part 5 of...
There we go. There we go. Always reliable for some great content, some interesting geography facts and all that sort of stuff. And someone who lives in Kossuth County, Iowa, I couldn't help but leave a comment. He's literally said it, so I've probably just not remembered how he said it then. If it still existed, the former Bancroft County would be one of the least populated places in the state. I can't talk. Well, native New Yorker here did not know Adirondacks were that much younger than Appalachia. So wait, are the Adirondack chairs just named after this mountain range then? Is this mountain range known for the chairs or something? Or is it just no relation to it at all? I mean, I'm not sure, but... And also, yeah, it's pretty wild how much more recently they popped up. From Hawaii, and your pronunciation of AA and Pahoho, I don't fucking know, were perfect. Again, he said them earlier, but I can't remember how you say it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Let me know your thoughts, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.